Exercise Theory Chapter 2, Holistic Approach to Physical Activity and Lifestyle. We'll start our discussion with some definitions of health versus wellness. Health is understood to be the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. We have a tendency of always thinking of healthy versus sick, whereas in this one we're thinking you're completely well, that it's not just you are not sick, but rather you have complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Wellness is an active process of becoming aware of and making choices towards a healthy and fulfilling life. Holistic wellness recognizes that all 7 dimensions of wellness are interrelated with each other and are equally vital in the pursuit of the highest degree of health. And we'll see in a moment that the 7 dimensions, or the 7 components of wellness, a holistic wellness, are occupational, emotional, spiritual, environmental, physical, social, and intellectual. So here they are. So these are these dimensions that we just talked about. You are in the center, and to really have a state of holistic wellness, you need a balance between emotional, intellectual, physical, social, environmental, occupational, and spiritual. We're going to discuss each one of these. Occupational. This would be having personal satisfaction from one's job or chosen career. So a sense of fulfillment in that which you do. It's a desire to make a positive impact on your organization, so where you work. Being fulfilled from your work and contributing to your work would be occupational. Emotional is understanding your feelings and being able to cope effectively with stress. Emotional is not being happy all the time, but recognizing the role of all the different emotions that we feel, acknowledging the different emotions. It's important to pay attention to your self-care and to work on relaxation as well as stress reduction techniques. Spiritual wellness is the ability to develop congruency between your values and your actions. So making sure that you act according to that which you value most importantly. A lot of people run into problems in life where their actions don't support what their values truly are, and so they have a lot of internal conflict. Also spiritual, it's to realize that you have a common purpose that will bind all of humanity together, that we're here for something bigger or something greater than just ourselves. Environmental, this dimension of wellness would respect the balance between the environment and yourself. So it's respect for all living things in the environment and for the actual environment itself, so the land, the sky, so not polluting, and also being able to appreciate the environment, to be able to be outside in the environment and experience environmental. Next, we have physical, and physical is our ability to maintain a healthy body and seeking care when needed. So watching ourselves, being observant to what's happening. We get our physical wellness through exercise, by eating well, by making sure we get enough sleep, and also watching for signs of illness. Be aware of signs of illness, and when there's something going wrong, that you get help. So we can't just say physical wellness is not being diagnosed with a disease. That would be incorrect. It would be watching for signs of any kind of illness or disease and getting things treated. Our social dimension is the ability to relate to and connect with other people in our world. So this is creating positive relationships with family, friends, co-workers, acquaintances, people we come across with, and also to be able to maintain these positive relationships, so build long-lasting friendships. Intellectual dimension is a desire to learn new concepts, improve skills, and seek challenges in pursuit of lifelong learning. It's being open to new ideas and experiences that can enhance your personal decisions, to constantly grow and adapt. It's important to know that all 7 of these dimensions can be fostered in physical activity environment. So, it could be through your job if you're working as a fitness trainer, which most of you will be, getting emotional, spiritual, environmental, physical, social, and intellectual. And if you keep in mind these dimensions of wellness and make sure you're incorporating them in different ways into your class, your participants will benefit. So we'll be talking a lot about active living. And so what exactly is active living? It's a process of putting physical activity in your daily life, to be physically active. And so it's physical activity, healthy eating, and staying at a healthy body weight. It's that happy medium between all three. We need to move more, eat well, a healthy body weight in order to get the most health benefits from life. Active living will actually boost mental health, so being more physically active. Exercise has an ability to increase your overall health and your sense of well-being. They say here it puts more pep in your step. You feel more energetic, you feel more lively, and when you feel that way, it increases your sense of well-being. It also has direct stress decreasing benefits. So as we exercise, we're going to be increasing serotonin levels in our brain. It also will increase our self-efficacy, and our self-efficacy is that belief that you can do something. Your confidence that you can accomplish a task would be your self-efficacy. Exercise will help to calm the mind, and it will improve the quality of sleep. Think of any day that you've had that you've worked very, very hard, physically demanding work. Perhaps you spent a day doing yard work at the beginning of the season. Or else, for those that are exercising in programs, maybe you had a day where you're exercising a lot, and what a good quality of sleep you had that night. You felt properly tired. You fell into a nice sleep. And all of these benefits will help to combat stress and will help to improve our overall mood. So to get the benefits of physical activity and active living, we need to have motivated individuals. And it's really important that you understand what exactly will motivate people to participate in your program, why they would actually show up week in, week out, what makes them want to be there. So motivation is defined as the degree of determination, drive, or desire with which an individual approaches or avoids behavior. That would be our motivation. And it's going to have 5 different components to motivation: direction, intensity, persistence, continuity, and performance. So for direction, this is going to be that act of either seeking out or avoiding situations. So it's a motivated individual will actively look for fitness classes to participate. They will actively get involved. Whereas someone lacking motivation will avoid situations of physical activity. So they're the individuals that drive up and down the lanes in the parking lot looking for the closest parking spot so they don't have to walk. Or these are the individuals that will take the elevator instead of taking the stairs. They're avoiding situations of physical activity. Motivation will also be determined by intensity, so the amount of energy and effort expended. So how hard the individual will work. So a more highly motivated individual will be willing to work harder in the class. So they won't just show up, but rather they'll push themselves. Persistence. So the extent to which an individual will concentrate on a task. So a highly motivated individual will focus a lot more on the task than someone that's not. Continuity, so someone that's motivated will return to the task. They will keep returning back, whereas somebody that's not motivated drops out quite easily. And performance. A motivated individual will usually be able to perform at a higher level, because to get to that higher level in the first place, they would have had to be quite motivated. So concepts of behavioral change. The first one we're going to talk about is self-efficacy. So by definition, it's people's belief about their capabilities to produce designated levels of performance that exercise influence over events that affect their lives. Let me simplify that. Self-efficacy is your confidence that you shall be able to succeed at something. So if you have high self-efficacy and you join a new exercise program, that means that you believe you will be successful at this new program or the new class that you're attending. In fact, if people believe that their self-efficacy, if they believe and would rate their self-efficacy at 70% or higher, they will be most likely to stick with the behavior. So they've done studies that going into the activity, they've had people rate their self-efficacy, and they found those that rate their self-efficacy at 70% or greater are most likely to continue with the behavioral change. So your beliefs of your self-efficacy and your ability to succeed will determine how you feel, think, how you motivate yourself, and behave. A strong sense of efficacy enhances in human accomplishment and personal well-being in many ways. You feel capable of doing something. People with high confidence in their skill level will approach difficult tasks as challenges to be mastered rather than threats to be avoided. So how can we really, in a class and as a fitness leader, how can you really use this concept of self-efficacy? The best way to think of this is usually in terms of beginners. So whenever I sign new people up to a fitness program I'm teaching, one of the first questions I will ask them is, have they participated in fitness activities in the past, and how did it go for them? So if they respond, oh, I was active all through high school, and then after university, I ran a couple of marathons, and then I did a few boot camps, and they talk about succeeding, I would see that their self-efficacy will be nice and high. I'll see that they're going to be most likely to succeed in the program. They've been successful in the past. They're going to carry that success forward. However, if the individual responds, well, I've never been physically active. I tried this, didn't like it. I tried this, didn't work. I haven't been very active. Well, I'm going to perceive their self-efficacy as being lower, so that they probably don't believe that they're going to succeed now. Even though they want to succeed, they probably don't have much confidence in their abilities. So what do I do with these individuals? These individuals, I make sure that I gradually introduce them to fitness, and I gradually introduce them to higher intensity levels. I want them to show up at my class and to succeed from day one. If I take these individuals and they come to my class and I'm doing these high intensity intervals and I'm making it super advanced and super complex, or maybe the routines are very hard to follow, if they haven't been successful in the past and they see that this could be a threat or a major hurdle and their self-efficacy is low, they're more likely to drop out. So being aware of this concept is very powerful. How can you treat a beginner to make sure that they constantly succeed, so that their self-efficacy constantly builds and grows, so that they are more likely to succeed in the future? So be aware of that. Know where the person stands, know where they're at, and know what their history was. This will make it very powerful tool for you. Physical literacy. This is a term that's being used quite frequently now. What physical literacy is having that basis for moving with competence and confidence in every kind of activity environment. So to say that you have physical literacy means that you are able to move with competence and confidence in different physical environments. So this can be, we talk about growing physical literacy, especially with children. This is a huge focus for younger children development. So we talk about physical literacy, being able to move in different environments, such as on the ground, on ice, in the air with jumping, in the water, so that they're able to move in all of these different ways. What we've realized is that if you have an individual that their physical literacy is low, so say they can't throw. If they can't throw, then they're not going to participate in any sports that require throwing. So any kind of baseball, dodgeball, etc. If they cannot swim, they are not going to participate in any kind of swimming sports, and most likely activities that might not be directly in the water but above the water, that water skiing, etc. If they can't swim, they're unlikely to participate in those. If they can't skate, they will not participate in skating or figure skating or hockey. And if they can't run, then all of a sudden that takes out so many team sports such as soccer and football and baseball. So what we've done is we've realized that we have this basic literacy, just like being able to read, okay? Being able to obtain basic physical activity movements, and how important it is to develop them as children. So if they can do all these different activities and these different movements, when they become adults, it's going to give them a larger range of activities they can participate in. So now they have the ability to choose soccer or baseball or a fitness class or go to the weight room or go train for a half marathon. They have a wide spectrum of things they could participate in. This is why we're talking so much about physical literacy and how to foster it, especially in young children. So physical literacy builds skills and confidence in movements in children that will nurture a lifelong relationship with physical activity. Fostering physical literacy will build self-efficacy and keep adult learners active. So once again, if they were physically active when they're younger and they knew how to run and they learned how to throw, it gives them confidence that they can succeed at physical activity as they get older, and that it gives them a wider variety of activities to choose from. Being aware of physical literacy will also help you understand your participants. So if an individual was not exposed to all these different activities as a young child, then it's probably going to lower their self-efficacy a little bit. So you're once again going to have to dial back what you're doing to build that self-efficacy up, to build those base skills up so that they can then be successful in the future. It really is. There's no time that's too late to start. People can begin anything anytime. We're just focusing with physical literacy with children because it's an easier time to teach them. But still, if you have an adult learner that has never been active, has never really participated in anything, you could still do so much with them as long as you take them through it with small steps. So what will motivate someone to exercise? So usually with younger people, they're looking towards improving their skills and abilities. They're looking to have fun and being with friends. They enjoy the thrills of it. They enjoy the success of it. So they enjoy, going to the championships or winning a game, and they enjoy fitness. Adult participation can still be these things. Okay, it could definitely still be these things. However, different things start to come into effect. So with adults, now all of a sudden we're interested in health. You're not going to find very many 5-year-olds that say they're running and playing soccer for health reasons. Okay, that's not why they're doing it. But adults do. They start getting concerned about the health declines that happen with inactivity. Also, adults are quite often motivated by fat loss and weight loss. It's as our society changes, weight is becoming a concern for many individuals, and so weight loss can motivate them to participate. They also might simply enjoy the fitness challenge of it, so they want to be physically active, and they want to see how far they could push themselves. Just because someone's no longer a child doesn't mean they don't still want to win that championship, or they want to break a new record for themselves with the half marathon. Also for the challenge, people enjoy that. They enjoy seeing, hey, how much weight can I lift? How fast can I run? They still are motivated by that. Also self-efficacy. So if they experience self-efficacy, then they are more likely to succeed, as we've spoken. Also, socialization. Probably one of the most powerful tools I now use. I teach only one group of individuals, and it's 16 women that we meet twice a week. And I have had the same group of women. I started this program back up about 2.5 years ago, and the majority of them, at least 10 of the 16, are the originals that started with me when I started it up. And in fact, I had taught this program previously, had taken a few years off, and almost every single one of them came from the original program. And what I focus on, I know how to create a class, I know how to motivate them, I know how to keep them active, but I created an environment for socialization where they got to know each other, where they knew everyone's name, where they were excited to see each other. One lady, actually 2 ladies, whenever they pay their monthly fee, they say, I figure this is a good price for my social event of the week. So it gives them an excuse to get out to be around other women. Mine's a ladies only class. So don't underestimate that this could be a good reason to socialize. I find this group, too, you might find older adults that might be finding that their lives are a little bit more isolated. Getting together to exercise might be a great way to socialize. And also, it should be noted, never assume someone's there for some reason. So just because you have an individual that might be a little bit heavier, if they show up at the class, don't assume they're there for weight loss. That might not be a goal for them. That might not be something that's important to them. Don't make that assumption. Perhaps they are there for socialization. And you know what? If that's why they're there, accept that and, enjoy the fact that they're with you. So motivation as well. We will talk about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. The simplest way probably is to look at intrinsic. So intrinsic means from within. Okay, it's inside of you. Motivation that's initiated from within. And really, this is exercising for the sheer love of it. You love the feeling. You love the sensation of it. You enjoy exercising for exercise itself. Extrinsic motivation comes from an outside source. So this could be positive or negative reinforcement, rewards, or payments. You could be doing this, you could be exercising to look better. That's extrinsic motivation. To lose weight, that's extrinsic motivation. To socialize with friends, extrinsic, because your family members are bothering you and saying you need to start exercising. Your doctor's telling you that. Your friends are bugging you to join a class so that they could have company. All these are extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic is simply the love of it, the sheer enjoyment of it. Not everybody becomes intrinsically motivated. And in fact, studies have shown that you do not ever need to become intrinsically motivated to stick with a program. Our goal is to have people intrinsically motivated because they are more likely to stick with behavioral change with intrinsic motivation. However, accept the fact that it might not happen. So if the individual doesn't necessarily love exercising but is motivated to show up to your class 3 times a week for health reasons, and they spend their life showing up for class for those health reasons, that's all right. You can accept that. So law of effect states that rewarding a particular behavior increases the probability. Rewarding a particular behavior increases the probability that a behavior will be repeated. So if someone finds something rewarding in some way, they're more likely to repeat it. So when they see the benefits of exercising, they're more likely to return. This doesn't have to be an outside reward. It's not like I'll give you a candy if you come to my class, but rather they can see the effects of things. They leave the class and they're feeling better for it. A couple days later, they're noticing how much higher energy they have. Those would be rewards that they might experience. It is noted that if you have someone who is already intrinsically motivated, they're doing it for the sheer love of it, that if you add an external reward for those people, it actually might replace the intrinsic motivation. So know your people. If they don't need any more motivation, if they're doing it for the love of it, don't add other rewards. They're fine. They're set. They're showing up at class and loving it. Let those individuals just be. So another model of change that we're going to discuss is a trans-theoretical model of change. And this is where individuals are going to go through different steps. They're going to go through pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. We're going to talk about each one of these individually. So pre-contemplation. This is the individual that is not intending to make a change. They do not see any value or desire to make a change. Now I'll start off with a smoking example because smoking is an easy example to use. Okay, so pre-contemplation is the smoker that is fine with smoking. They're not thinking about quitting. They're not interested about quitting. Contemplation, they're considering changes. They're not making any changes. They're considering changes. So for contemplation for the smoker would be them starting to think. They're watching the commercials and they're going, I probably should quit smoking. That would probably be a wise thing to do. someone in the preparation will start making small changes. So our smoker might go out and get a prescription for quitting smoking, or might look to online resources on methods to quit smoking. They're not quitting yet, but they're taking the proper actions to get ready to quit smoking, pardon me. And then the action stage. So this is where they actively engage in the new behavior. So they've quit smoking. They started using the patch, or they're taking the medication, and they are no longer smoking. Maintenance is now when all of a sudden they're able to sustain that change over time. So they now 6 months have passed and they are still a non-smoker. That's a maintenance. Arguably, you could give a last stage of termination, which just means the behavior is now permanent. So you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's not, you don't even associate yourself with being a smoker anymore. And know that relapse can occur at any stage. So, you might be in the preparation stage, start making small changes, and in our smoker example, they might all of a sudden go through a lot of stress and then fall back to pre-contemplation. They have no intention of quitting smoking again. So we move fluidly through the different stages, and it's very, very valuable to understand where somebody is when you're communicating with that person. So let's use a fitness example this time. So pre-contemplation, the person doesn't even consider fitness. They see all these people running on the sidewalk and think, why would anybody do that? It's not even on their radar. Contemplation, they are watching the people running by going, I should be more physically active. I could see the benefits of being more physically active. There's something I should maybe change. Preparation, now all of a sudden maybe they went out and bought themselves some exercise clothes. Maybe they're investigating on the internet. Maybe they're signing up for a class. Maybe they're going out and touring different gyms. They're making small changes. At the action stage, now they're exercising. Now they're physically moving, but it's not going to be a permanent change yet. They're still getting new at the habit, and we want to make sure that at least 6 months have passed, and at that 6-month point they'll be maintaining. They're at maintenance, and then if there are lifelong exercises, arguably we talk termination, because it's now what they do. They exercise. Know where people are. Depending on where your careers take you, you may do counseling for some individuals, and if somebody's being forced to come in because their doctor made them, or their family members are nagging them to exercise, just because they walked into the gym doesn't mean that they're necessarily at a contemplation or preparation. So if that person walks in that's pre-contemplation, perhaps your time with them is better spent helping them realize some benefits of physical activity and helping them see how they can make some small changes to benefit them. If you have that individual that's pre-contemplation and they walk in and you spend your time with them creating them a big fancy program, they're not going to succeed at it. They don't have any intention of it. The same thing that if you have somebody that's in maintenance, your goals with those individuals is finding a way to keep them active, so that if something happens in their life where they might be going through a busy period in their life, that you might decide that your time is best spent in creating them a smaller, shorter program that they can still participate in and succeed in, just so that they can continue to maintain the activity they've already gained. Some couple little comments. Quick fixes are rare. It is rare that somebody walks into a gym that has never been physically active. They walk in, they fall in love with it, and they are a fitness person right off the bat. They're just committed. They're set. I often find when I used to do a lot of personal training that individuals would show up to personal train who had not been active for years, that they decided that they were ready to work out an hour and a half, 5 days a week. That's probably not a good transition. And in fact, they were always quite shocked when I would dial them back to fewer, shorter workouts and have them succeed at that first, building up their self-efficacy as well as being realistic. So really, to move through these stages of change, usually it takes a cycle of either 1 or 2 year period. You are going to have moments of relapse. The individual is going to be gung-ho and keen, and they're doing great, and then the kids are home from summer holidays, and the individual relapses because they're too busy chasing around after kids. So we might be able to achieve greater participation by encouraging step-by-step movement along a continuum as opposed to encouraging individuals to move directly into action. If we could really stress to them and teach them the benefits of physical activity as opposed to just making them go out and run a few laps, it's really going to help make long-term change possible. So let's just briefly talk about some barriers to physical activity, because these do come up. Once again, you have to remember that you are not necessarily the norm anymore. You, as someone that's taking this course, it's assumed that you probably are already very physically active, and you don't need to worry as much about these barriers because you've already succeeded with them. So the first one barrier is no time. Perhaps somebody that has no time might do better with active living activities rather than structured classes. So if it's too hard for that individual to get into a class 3 times a week for an hour, perhaps that individual is best off doing little micro walks. So maybe as opposed to taking the dog outside for 5 minutes, they do a little 10-minute circuit, that they park farther away, that they take the stairs, that they find ways of fitting fitness in. I like for those that are really time pressed to come up with the shortest possible routine that they can do at home, where maybe I have them do some rows, some push-ups, some squats. Is that a full program? No. No. But will they gain some benefits in self-efficacy? Yes. And perhaps that's all that they can do at that time. The next barrier is family responsibilities. This one, I had my first and only child a few years ago, and I never really understood this family responsibility things as much as I do now. Even when my daughter was very young, it was extremely hard to be able to fit in an hour-long workout, right? It wouldn't work. Um, she wouldn't sit still or stay still as I was trying to do these activities, and so things that worked for me were these very, very short workouts, very quick, very easy that I could succeed at, so I could feel successful with that. Other things is adding active living pursuits into your family's lifestyle. So I would take her for walks every day and take the dog as well. We would move more that way. We would go to the zoo and walk around the zoo. We would try to do those active living things together. And in fact, my husband, daughter, and I now, that's what we try to do, is we try to think of our fun day activities as things that are physically active. Other ways is walking to school or playing in the local park. What can you do that will fit in? Another thing, too, I've recommended to individuals that they're so busy with their kids' programs that I've suggested, when the kids playing soccer, walk up and down the sideline. Get some activity that way. When they're playing at the park, do activity at the park with them. Find some ways, you could be doing push-ups, you could be doing squats, you could climb up stuff again. Have some fun. It's going to motivate and inspire your kids as well as keep you active. Another issue is no motivation. And so this one, we really want to try to use social networks to help. Get support through friends or colleagues or social contacts. Have group activities. Have individuals do things where somebody is relying on them. Other things, too, with motivation is I do make sure that I pay attention to what the individual likes to do. That will help to motivate them, as well as keep it very manageable sizes and times. If it's too much, they just simply won't do it. The next barrier is often the cost. And yes, physical activity can be expensive. Signing up at a gym, signing up for classes can be expensive. So look for and know of free or low-cost classes. So something that's not too expensive that they can join or that are offered free. Perhaps there's some subsidized programs in your area. Perhaps you have volunteer teachers. Other things that I really like too is recommending things that they can do at home. A Dynaband or tubing is a one-time cost that's not that expensive, that the individual can do stuff at their own home. Other things too is simply reminding them that they can go outside and walk. If it's winter time, there's walking times that are available in malls. So they have morning mall walking programs for seniors that are free, that you can simply just get people out and moving, get them outside, get them doing anything that's not expensive. Friends and families discourage participation. I don't often see this, but it can definitely happen, especially with cultural things. Be aware of what you can do for cultures that limit that will not allow men and women to exercise in the same areas. So perhaps you're finding women's only facility where the woman can exercise comfortably because men will not be around. Or perhaps if it's a cultural thing, maybe once again this can be the person can be active in their home instead. Maybe that's an option. If it's really that they're friends and family for non-cultural reasons, but just personality-wise aren't being supportive and discourage participation, then maybe recommend new social groups that, so if you have somebody that wants to be physically active and all their friends are like, why do we want to do that? Don't waste your time, and kind of poo-pooing their idea, then maybe it's gently suggesting to build a new group of friends that choose to be physically active. You can still keep your old friends, but somebody that you can participate in activity with. The lack of self-confidence. This is what I keep talking about with the self-efficacy. How can you make it so that the person can succeed? You want to make sure that you do things to foster physical literacy. Make sure that it's obtainable. Be aware for those that lack confidence. Make sure they're not going to an advanced class. Look for beginner classes. Look for intro classes to really help them gain the confidence they need. And the last thing can be limited infrastructure. So this you might want to use by contacting the Manitoba Fitness Council. The ladies at the office are wonderful. They know of many different programs within the community that they can help people with and help make suggestions on what could work. Just because going outside is free and easy and cheap, perhaps the individual might live in an area that might not be considered safe. So we need to be aware of these and help them overcome those problems. There's also this theory of reasoned action will also help. And this is that the individuals consider the consequence of their behavior before performing that particular behavior. And so when they think about exercise, they're going to think of the consequences, right? So if they perceive exercise as being hard and uncomfortable and painful, they are less likely to participate. If they view exercise as something that's fun, that's enjoyable, that's obtainable, then they are more likely to join in. They're more likely to attend. So this is a theory of reasoned actions, and your decisions are going to be shaped by social pressures and your personal attitude. Okay. And whether or not you perceive the behavior as positive or negative is often shaped by your self-efficacy. So if you've never succeeded in a fitness program in the past, you're most likely to view exercise in a negative light. So how can we make it that how can we make it that the person will perceive the activity as something positive? And that's once again your role. How can you make it as enjoyable as possible? We've gone through a phase and a shift in the fitness industry where we've taken everything high intensity and hardcore this and intense that. There is definitely a reason for doing that. There's huge benefits to doing high intensity interval training. And a lot of people will enjoy these high intense activities. But what's sort of gotten left behind in this new trend are the beginners. And the beginners are often going to be overwhelmed, that they're going to perceive, if all they've seen of fitness is a high intensity interval class, they're going to perceive exercise as very negative. So we have to make sure we keep a space for the beginners, for the newer participants, and make sure that they're entered gradually into fitness levels so they could eventually work their way up to more high intensity things if that's what interests them. So I've already mentioned this. Understand what the motivation behind your individual's participation is. So don't assume it's for health reasons or weight loss reasons. Um, find out really why they're there. They might want to be there to socialize with others. But don't assume that. If that individual is coming because they're very competitive and they want to train for a competition, you don't have to be very competitive to train for competition. Anybody can, but let's say that individual is there really to get in an intense workout. Maybe they're there to kind of zone out. Maybe they're not there for social reasons at all. Maybe they're there to exercise hard, and go home. Be aware of these. There are no right or wrong reasons for exercising. You know, foster all kinds of desires and reasons. Make sure you do keep stressing the intrinsic factors about how good things feel and the enjoyment of the experience itself, because we want intrinsic motivation if we could have it. But definitely don't discount their reasons for participation. We want them to be active, so um, you know, accept their reason, even if it's not the same reason as you have. So once again, attitude towards exercise and your social norm will change your intention to exercise and will lead to exercising or not. So if you have positive exercise and social norms support exercise, it'll increase your intention to exercise, increase the likelihood of exercising. All right, so let's just wrap things up now. Our 7 components of wellness. Remember the 7 components that would be occupational, emotional, spiritual, environmental, social, physical, and intellectual. Okay, make sure you go back to read over exactly what those all entail. What are the components of motivation? It's going to be direction, intensity, persistence, continuity, and performance. And then go back to the stages of change. So the pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, termination, relapse. And look at your own personal health goal that you may have and see how it fits on that continuum, how you moved that continuum, or where you currently are in it.